When you have a negative emotion, all of the time, every time you have a negative emotion, it means that you have a need that is not being met, or the air quotes, perception of a need not being met. So let's go back to the client that I mentioned about her husband. Her love language is touch, his is acts of service. She felt rejected. She interpreted rejection. She felt sad and angry. So she was getting love, but her perception wasn't, she didn't think she was getting love because she wasn't receiving the love she was getting. So that's a perception. In fact, he was giving lots of love in different ways. She just wasn't able to receive it.
Yeah.
So the reason why you have a negative emotion is because you have a need that is not being met, or the perception of a need not being met. Now, that is a conversation game changer because most people have no idea they even have needs. They think need means needy. They think need means weak. They think needs means, I don't know, like judgmental about need, dependent. No. We on this list are 86 basic human needs. Every single human needs everything on this list.
Well, and the other thing about this is also starting to understand your feelings. You talked about this a little bit earlier, but one of the issues that people who are struggling with mental health challenges, especially like bipolar, depression, anxiety, we are not able to access and stay with our feelings, stay present with feelings, and allow them to do their job. And often what that causes is a severe emotional dysregulation. You know, you end up with a lot of emotional dysregulation that then gets labeled as a disorder instead of recognizing I need to learn how to process this stuff. I need to learn how to sit with this stuff. If we have really intense emotional responses because we've been traumatized, and that gets suppressed, or it gets diverted, or, you know, there's a lot of different things that we do in those situations that causes emotional dysregulation, and then it gets labeled as a disorder. Then we get psychotropic drugs that can further dysregulate the emotional responses to things. It really messes us up. And learning how to recognize emotions are not good or bad. They're just information. All it is just information being delivered to you, and learning how to process those things. And I think this all ties together because a lot of times we have, you know, if we have experiences in our childhood that we interpret through our childhood eyes in a way that maybe isn't healthy, and then that informs the way that we see the world around us. And then we feel like maybe we've seen anger people who are angry acting in ways that are not safe. And I think anger is not a safe emotion. So whenever I feel anger, I suppress that emotion. That dysregulates, and it's not a disorder. It is a survival mechanism. You know, we have developed this survival mechanism because that's not safe, right? So how do you work with people who are struggling with, you know, learning how to experience emotions in safe and healthy ways, learning how to stop labeling emotions as good or bad, those kinds of things? I'm assuming that that's part of this work.
Yeah. And it's actually it's the first thing I learned when I was looking at communication and how to communicate. I mean, minus again the stuff I brought with me, like all the astrology stuff. But then there was the next point of like, all right, like I had been introduced to a book, and I'm happy to share it. It's called Nonviolent Communication, written by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, who has since passed. And it's a very popular movement all over the world. However, I will tell you that it's not as popular as it could be because the title is terrible. Most of us would not necessarily say that we are violent communicators. So for a long time, I didn't read the book or listen to the audio because I thought I'm not a violent communicator. Like that does not resonate with me. I'm not a violent communicator. I have for years wanted to rewrite that book in my own way, because I think the work. And again, I'm a miner. I'm a gold miner, if you will. I like archaeologist, whatever. I like to go in and figure out like the most important, powerful, life-changing thing in each of the works that I have studied. And then I pull it out, and that's what I use in the work that I'm doing. I'm like this, like I pull out like the game changers of the thing. And I even teach it differently than they do because I've had people on my show and I've been in summits with other people who present and are trainers for NVC, which are great, by the way. If anyone wants to do nonviolent communication, I think it's a great place to start. However, Why I teach this differently is because I went and studied with a couple trainers locally. Like at the time it was further away than it is for me now. And I took it like a bunch of classes, and I invited them all down to where I lived. And I got all my clients and friends and spouse and people to take this class. And then I sat back and I watched how people learned. And the way that it was what I'm going to teach you is taught, and I'm happy to share this worksheet with everybody. It's free. You can download it. And I'm going to say print 10 or 30 copies of it right away and put it everywhere that you live, in your purse, in your wallet, in your car, in your refrigerator, in your bathroom, and you're everywhere on your desk. But the way they were teaching it, there was a lot of disconnect. And it was actually when I started to learn how I learn differently. In my brain is something, if you're teaching it to me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's something that doesn't compute, my brain will rearrange it. But I didn't know that until I was in this class, already knowing this material, thinking it was the greatest thing in the world. This is life-changing. And I'm watching people be confused, like most of them. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, why are they not getting this? Why are they not seeing that this is like so important? And it's because of the way that it's presented by them versus the way that I present it. So I've called it a couple things. I don't know that non-NVC calls it anything in particular, but I call it 3 steps to effective communication, because that's initially why I learned it. However, this is also 3 steps to effective emotional processing and 3 steps to problem solving your negative feelings. All those 3 things would apply. So I'm going to show you the list for those of you that are on the video. So it's basically a piece of paper divided into 2 categories. The top has a list of feelings and the bottom has a list of needs. The way this is taught in NVC is that you are asked to listen for, and so if you were talking to me, Michelle, and I would be listening for I would go through this 3 steps process, but me trying to figure out for you and with you what's going on for you. I'd be listening to what's real for you right now. That has so much value. And I will say that I don't do a great job of having everyone in my community do that piece, because to me, it's secondary. Because if I'm triggered by you, I'm not paying attention to what your needs are. I'm paying attention to what my needs are. So to me, I feel like it's premature. You're asking somebody who has not even dealt with their own wounds and needs, who might be triggered by what's going on, to sort of step out of themselves and then listen for what's going on for you and put all of my needs aside. I don't think most people can do that very well. Yeah. So I teach it to, like, you have to know it in yourself first. You have to be the first person to identify what's going on and what's real for you to even see it in somebody else. So the steps go like this. The first is to ask yourself when you're not feeling good, because 99% of the time when you're not feeling good, there's a way to figure it out. And you're not going to do this when you're feeling great. Although I did have a client recently who did do that. She's in my Date Your Body program last year, and she's doing my Rewire next year. And it was brilliant. She said to me, she goes, well, I was just feeling so happy that I wanted to know why. So she went backwards and did the exercise to figure out what got her so happy. I'm like, that's brilliant. But normally when you're happy, just be there, like just milk it, be happy, live in the vibration of all of that wonderful feeling. It's when you're not feeling good that you want to change that. So the first step is to identify the feeling. So the question is, what feeling, what am I feeling right now? Now, most people would probably give you 10, 15 words max in terms of how many emotion words there are. There's 100 different feeling words on this list. And the reason why there are 100 is because you have to think about the intensity. If you're standing next to me, we're in close proximity, and you say to me, what's going on with you? What are you feeling right now? And I said, I'm irritated. You'd be like, okay. And you probably wouldn't do anything. You'd probably just ask more questions. But then if you said, what are you feeling right now? And I said, I'm enraged. You'd probably take a big giant step away from me, right? So they both fall under the category of angry and mad, but the degree is different. Someone who's irritated isn't going to start swinging. Someone who's enraged might get violent. So you have to be able to fine tune and identify the true feeling that's going on for you. You don't have to be exact. It's your own feeling. But I would say focus on no more than 2 or 3 feelings. Like if you're like, what's going on with me right now? Like, oh, I just want to get out of this. This feels badly for me. What is it? What am I feeling? So, and then if you're someone who is more disembodied and dysregulated and you're in your head too much and you have anxiety, it's not on this list, but the next step I would have you do is to also make a list after you go through the emotion, like separately, maybe somewhere on the page, right? Where do you feel that in your body? Where does that sensation happen for you? Is it in your gut? Do you have stomach problems? Do you have diarrhea? Do you have a neck ache? Do you have neck tightness? Do you have shoulder pain? Do you have lower back pain? Do you have hip pain? Do you feel whatever? So I would write down where you feel it in your body. Is your heart beating faster, or do you get red in the face? So step 1, what am I feeling? Question 1. Question 2. Okay. When you have a negative emotion, all of the time, every time you have a negative emotion, it means that you have a need that is not being met, or the air quotes, perception of a need not being met. So let's go back to the client that I mentioned about her husband. Her love language is touch, his is acts of service. She felt rejected. She interpreted rejection. She felt sad and angry. So she was getting love, but her perception wasn't, she didn't think she was getting love because she wasn't receiving the love she was getting. So that's a perception. In fact, he was giving lots of love in different ways. She just wasn't able to receive it. Yeah. So the reason why you have a negative emotion is because you have a need that is not being met, or the perception of a need not being met. Now, that is a conversation game changer, because most people have no idea they even have needs. They think need means needy. They think need means weak. They think needs means, I don't know, like judgmental about need, dependent. No. We on this list are 86 basic human needs. Every single human needs everything on this list. Okay. And in fact, another exercise you could do with this, if you don't even know, like you're so like, I have no freaking clue what I'm feeling. I think I'm feeling so many things, just without circumstance, like you have a general dread of life or general anxiety that you're always with, then don't even bother making this about a situation. I love doing this. I did this with my, with clients, but I did this at my last live event and it was very effective. Just go down to the needs list without any, like, don't think of a specific situation, just your life, and start circling every need that is currently not being met that you care about. Like beauty is on here. And for some people, they don't care about beauty. Okay. So don't circle it if you don't care about it. But if it's something that you want to have and you're not getting it met, circle it. And you might be shocked. I've had some people start at the 6-month program and have most of these needs not being met. And then half of that's gone and they're getting half their needs met, because the anxiety that you feel, the being unsafe, the unsafe in the world, honestly, is because you have a whole bunch of needs not being met. You can solve most of your problems and your nervous system dysregulation if you actually were to identify the needs that aren't being met and then get them met. So step 3 is, step 3 or question 3 is, how do I get these needs met? And you create strategies. More than 1, 2 is best, 3 is great. Not 1, you need 2 or 3. And here's the most important line of the entire thing. How do I get these? What are the strategies I need to take to get these needs met that do not require anyone else to be different? This cannot be, I need him to, her to, them to. I need the government to change. I need my workplace to change. I need this to change. That is, again, when you're there, that's just a mirror. These circumstances are just mirrors for a need that isn't getting met. I had a client recently who moved. She's a traveling nurse, and she went and started working in a new place, and she has a truck, and she came out of the hospital, and literally 8 trucks were busted into, and she was the last person to know. And so she came out, and there's like a shuttle, I think, that even takes them to the parking lot. Anyway, she didn't feel safe, is the point. Now, in the past, she would not have spoken up, but this time she spoke up, and she went to whoever's in charge, and she said, this isn't right. We need to have cameras, blah, 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 whatever. And luckily for her, they did do what she asked and what everyone, because it was like 8 trucks that got busted into. That's like it's a big vandalism. However, I said to her, well, what would have happened if they didn't do that? Because you can't make them get the cameras and up the security. You would have had to come up with another strategy to get your need met of safety that doesn't require them to have to change. So this is where we can't get on a soapbox about what other people need to do for you to feel X, Y, and Z. You have to take responsibility for that and figure out. So for her, I don't know what that would have meant. Would it meant quitting her job? Would it have meant taking an Uber and then charging them for I don't know. But ultimately, you need to have more than one way to get that need met without asking anyone else to be different. That was a game changer for me when I learned this a long, long time ago. When I understood that I had a need for companionship, and I tried to make every boyfriend or partner of mine like my everything, and they had to do everything with me. And so we had to have everything in common, which was never going to work out. Like when I understood, I'm just looking for companionship, which means I don't have to make them or ask them or expect them to do everything with me. I can do different things with different people. So I can find people that want to do this activity with me, people that want to do this one, and then they're off the hook, which makes everybody feel free and better, right? So again, your needs That's the paradigm shift. That's the game changer, because no one ever teaches you how to get your needs met, or that you even should have needs. People feel guilty for having needs, but that's the manipulation that we have in our lives. You actually have needs that you need to get met that you don't even know how to get met. So you manipulate people around you to get them met. And then you get mad when they don't give it to you, but it's not their job to give it to you. So if you can just take responsibility for learning and figuring that out, forget core wounds. I love core wounds. They're really important, but if you can master this, your whole life will change.